Hi, my name is Brian Coley. I am the Chief Creative Officer of a company called Real Experiences. And at Real, we look at people's top 10 favorite movies as a way to kind of dive into and explore their own personal story. And for the last 8 years, I've been looking at the Best Picture nominees at the Oscars to see what they say about our culture story. Some people have kind of labeled me the movie whisperer, and I'm sort of, I don't know if I've accepted that term yet, but I'm going to go ahead and try and see where that leads us. But I just love looking at people's movies and really seeing those insights that come out when you look at them together and how that intersects with our story. So I'm really excited about today because today is the day in which they announce the 2021 Oscar nominees. So without further ado, drum roll please. Here are the nominees for 2021 Academy Awards Best Picture. We have The Chicago 7, we have Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Mank, and Sound of Metal. Give it up for the nominees. So this is a pretty significant day as far as my work is concerned, because I have over the last years looked at themes and threads in the Oscars. And it's at this moment that I can lock in and start looking at those threads by looking at this palette of film in front of us and treating it almost like it's a palette to begin exploring what is connected, what threads are connected between all of these films. And over the last 8 years, I've seen these themes and threads that have come out of the Oscars actually foreshadow or reveal what happens over the next year in our culture, in our country. And so it's just, a lot of people look at the Oscars as not relevant at all. But for me, I think it's one of the most relevant things we can be looking at is seeing at these great artists, the best filmmakers of our time who have something to say, and to look at what they say and see how when they come together, what that says about where we're headed as a culture. So this is a pretty significant day. As you can see with these films, if I told you yesterday, I had an idea of sort of maybe some themes that I thought were working itself out with some of the Oscar nominees I was looking at. In fact, I want to shout out to the goldderby.com. Those folks over there, for months and months, they're predicting as what films will actually make this list. And so they helped me form a bigger palette that I start exploring when these films start coming out, of about 12 films that I start looking at the themes. But then today is when it gets locked in. And I have to admit, there's a lot of, well, not a lot, there's a couple of surprises that hit today that I wasn't expecting. The first is The Sound of Metal. It's an independent film, and it was on the bubble. I didn't think it was going to make it. It's a great film, but I wasn't expecting it to be there. And then the other film was The Father. I thought it was on the bubble too, probably not going to be in the list. And instead, what I thought was going to be there was, instead of Sound of Metal, I thought it was going to be Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And instead of The Father, I thought it was going to be One Night in Miami. In fact, I love that film. I thought it probably could actually win based on that. And then Promising Young Woman, I thought was going to be there. But if it wasn't, I thought, well, it's probably going to be The Five Bloods because they're going to honor Spike Lee. And you can see this is a totally different palette of film to work with, and kind of shows you how exploring these films versus the films that are there actually is totally different. Just to give you an example, I thought I was going to wake up this morning to, after the nominees were announced, to hashtag Oscars So Black, because so many of the films that would have been there, Ma Rainey's One Night in Miami, along with Judas and the Black Messiah and The Five Bloods, would have been told from an African-American perspective. And then you throw Minari in there and you have, all this people of color representation. And so to me, I was kind of excited because I wanted to explore what was going to be the dramatic question that came out of these films that have different perspectives than just white people. And so that changed drastically overnight with these films going away. And then another thing that I want to just show you as far as a thread that I was beginning to see that's kind of evaporated without these films there is a sense of a lot of these films speak to what it's like to work within a system, as well as try to have freedom from a system. And that's still present in some of the films that we're going to explore that are there, but it was much more present as a theme with films like Ma Rainey, films like One Night in Miami, where there's just this great discussion of, Sam Cooke working inside of the system, and Malcolm X wanting to freedom from the system. So it was just a different palette of films that you wake up to. And so if we go back to the films, you'll see something that also I woke up to and I went, didn't expect this. And that was Sound of Metal. I started seeing, here's a guy who's lost a sense of hearing. That's the plot of that movie. And then the father, here's a guy who's lost his faculties. He's got dementia as an older gentleman. And then I looked at Promising Young Woman, and she's lost a friend and dealing with that loss. And then I see loss in other films. And then I'm like, okay, here's a wonderful theme that's starting to emerge really richly. And what better timing in America for us to be exploring what these movies say about loss and what they could say about, where we might be headed as far as our loss. With what we've lost in 2020, whether loved ones or whether jobs or whether, just the life that we knew. So lots of fun things to explore. I'm excited to invite you into the process of looking at this palette of film and see what it says. I'm going to be doing vlogs over the next a month and a half leading up to the Oscars, not 2 months, month and a half, till the 25th when the Oscar show airs. And so join me as we dive into these movies, not only to celebrate them artistically, but to see what they may say about where we're headed as a country. So we'll see you next time on The Movie Whisperer.